Noble Phantasm. They are powerful armaments made using human imagination as their core and are the weapons and/or abilities owned by heroic spirits. As humanity's illusions, they embody the ultimate mysteries of a hero as symbols of their existence through historical fact and anecdotes. They can be physical weaponry, e.g. swords, spears, bows, or support items, e.g. shields, rings, crowns. They can also be abstractions such as unique, often magical abilities, even close to or matching true magic, unique, even conceptual, means of attack, curses, and changes to the very environment and its physical properties. Even a servant can equip multiple noble phantasms as once. When summoned as servants in the Holy Grail War, they are the trump cards of the heroes that allow them to overcome others in battle. However, a noble phantasm isn't meant to be used as a show for other people. Not up until now. When a certain red-haired servant's noble phantasm attracted many people that knew him. Emiya Shirou took a deep breath as he was in Chaldea's testing room. Today was the day that Chaldea was finally able to record his noble phantasms and see what it is for future references. However, there was one thing he did not expect. The amount of attention he was going to receive when he was going to unleash his noble phantasms. Which was in the form of the Arturias, Rins, Sakuras, Ilias, Miyu, Astria, Jaguarman, Iraspiel, Kiritsugu, Emiyas, Ritsuka, Mashu, Fo, Da Vinci, Neros, Jeans, Okitas, Musashi, the Knights of the Round, Merlin, Lancer Cu, Rider Medusa, Castor Medea, Berserker Heracles, Sasaki Kojiro, and surprisingly the Gilgameshes looking at Shirou. And they all look anxious, well, most of them are. Shirou sighed at the situation in front, or rather behind him. Just how did something as simple as this turned into something so big? A few hours ago. Eh? You want me to come to the training room later? Shirou asked. Yeah. Is that a problem for you? Da Vinci replied. Well, no. But why though? Da Vinci smiled. Chaldea needs to know what your noble phantasms are for future reference. Shirou thought about what Da Vinci said and realized that ever since he arrived in Chaldea, he hasn't shown his noble phantasms in front of anyone at all. That's right. Ever since I arrived here, I haven't even shown what my noble phantasms are. Wonder why it took this long for me and Da Vinci to realize this. Shirou? Da Vinci asked, snapping Shirou out of his thoughts. HM? Oh, it's nothing Da Vinci, Shirou replied. I see. Anyways, can you do it? Yeah. I suppose it's about time, huh? Excellent. Then meet me in the training room in a few hours. Okay? Okay. Good. Bye Shirou. Bye Da Vinci. Da Vinci then let Shirou alone and headed towards the training room. However, she didn't notice that there was someone overhearing the entire conversation. Or rather, somebody's. Did you hear that? Ilia whispered. Yeah. Oniai-chan has 2 noble phantasms. And he and Da Vinci are going to test them within a few hours. Kuro replied in whispers. Wonder what his noble phantasms are? Saitonai asked. A sword that shoots a giant laser? Or is it summoning a bunch of swords? Or is it a technique that involves multiple strikes? Or is it something else that we have never seen before? Who knows? Anyways, let's go check it out later. Miyu exclaimed in excitement. Yeah. Ilia, Kuro, and Saitonai explained as well. They then soon left for the training room. However, what they didn't know was that someone else overheard the conversation as well. And that person was Iraspiel von Einsburn. What's this that I'm hearing? My son has 2 noble phantasms up his sleeve? Well, this seems interesting, better tell the others. Especially the girls. Iraspiel thought excitingly. Soon, Iriviel stared talking to the girls about Shirou's noble phantasms testing, which got the girls excited. And this started to spread throughout of Chaldea. Back to the present. Shirou sighed again at the situation. Da Vinci, justice going on here? Well, it seems that word has spread about you carrying 2 noble phantasms, and today's testing of it, Da Vinci said sheepishly. I can see that. He said as he turned around to see the Arturias, Rins, Sakuras, Ilias, Miyu, Astria, Jaguarman, Irispiel, Kiritsugu, Emiyas, Ritsuka, Mashu, Fo, Da Vinci, Miros, Jeans, Okitas, Musashi, the Knights of the Round, Merlin, Lancer Cu, Rider Medusa, Castor Medea, Sasaki Kojiro, and the Gilgameshes looking at him. And why are all of you here? Because we want to see how strong you have become, Shirou, Arturia and her counterparts said. B because we want to see what kind of ridiculous stuff you'll pull off today. Ishtar and her counterparts said with a blush on their faces. We want to see Senpai's noble phantasms, Parvati, and Bibi and her sisters said. We want to see Oniai-chan's noble phantasms. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu exclaimed. I want to see what display of power Shirou's noble phantasm has. Astria exclaimed. I'm here to make sure you don't get yourself into trouble. Jaguarman said. I want to see what kind of noble phantasms my son has. Irispiel exclaimed excitedly. I'm only here because IRI dragged me here. Kiritsugu said. Emiya and Emiya Alter didn't say anything. Well, I can't help but be curious at what your noble phantasms are, Shirou, Ritsuka said. And me too. Mashu said. Fo said. I want to see what abilities your noble phantasms have, my praetor. Nero and her counterparts said proudly. I'm here because I've nothing better to do. Jean Dark Alter said. Now, that isn't the case. Isn't it? Jean Dark said with a smile. I want to see what Shirou is capable of. Okita and Okita Alter said. I want to see what noble phantasms does Shirou-kun have. Musashi said excitedly. We want to see what our queen is capable of, Gawain, Lancelot, Tristan, Bedivere, and Gareth said. I want to see Mother's noble phantasms. I haven't seen them before. Mordred exclaimed. I am curious to see what Shirou's noble phantasms are. Merlin said with a sly smile. I'm interested in what the kid has on his sleeve, Lancer Cu said with a smirk on his face. I want to see what Shirou has, Rider Medusa said. I'm interested in what the boy has to offer, Castor Medea said. Rarik. Berserker Heracles yelled. I wonder what technique Saber's former master will show. Sasaki said. Archer Gilgamesh didn't say anything, but Castor Gilgamesh did. I'm here just to see why my archer counterpart keeps calling you faker. Me too, Kid Gilgamesh said. Shirou sighed as he heard everyone's reasons. Geez. When Da Vinci told me about the recording of my noble phantasms, she probably didn't expect this much attention from everyone here. Shirou. What are you waiting for? It's time you know. You don't want to keep these people waiting. Da Vinci yelled. Huh? Oh yeah. Shirou then turned around again and then took a deep breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he slowly raised his hand. My body is made out of swords. In an instant, swords started materializing out of nowhere, shocking everyone besides the Emiyas. My blood is of iron and my heart of glass. As more swords started to materialize, a sudden wind appeared in the room and Shirou's body started to light up with the magic circuits in him. I have created over 1,000 blades. Unaware of loss, nor aware of gain in every battle. Withstood pain to create weapons, striving for that utopia. The Arturia's ears suddenly perked at hearing that line. Suddenly, a ring of fire appeared around everyone. I have no regrets as I accepted this path. In an instant, Mashu immediately knew what this was. Shirou-san. Is this dash? This body is made out of infinite swords. And at that moment, everything was encased in a bright light. For a moment, everyone covered their eyes to protect themselves from the brightness that happened. And after a few moments, the brightness was gone, and everyone opened their eyes. And they were in shock, especially Emiya Altar, Merlin, and Foe. In front of everyone was a meadow under a bright yellow sun. A cool breeze swept through soft green grass, the sight stretching out forever to the distant horizon. Beautiful flowers of blue and red, of purple and white, grew underfoot in this land of endless day. There were a few trees in some areas. On top of that, there were swords everywhere, ranging from long swords to short swords, broadswords, straight swords, curved swords, any kind of sword was here. Not only that, but there were spears, axes, any kind of weapon with a blade. All of the Arturias, Rins, Sakuras, Ilias, Miyu, Astria, Jaguarman, Iraspiel, Karitsugu, Emiyas, Ritsuka, Mashu, Foe, Da Vinci, Neros, Jeans, Okitas, Musashi, the Knights of the Round, Merlin, Lancer Cu, Rider Medusa, Castor Medea, Berserker Heracles, and Sasaki Kojiro were in awe of the beauty of the landscape in front of them while the Gilgameshes just looked at it in anger. Shirou. Arturia and her counterparts said. Emiya Kuan. Ishtar, her rider counterpart and Ereshkigal said. Senpai. Parvati, and Bibi and her sisters said. Oniai-chan. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu said. Shirou. Astria said. Shirou. Jaguarman said. Oh my, this seems to be a beautiful place. Iraspiel said. Karitsugu, Emiya, and Emiya Altar didn't say anything. However, Emiya and Emiya Altar had one thought in mind. So, this is the conclusion that my younger self ended up with, and this is the result of the path he chose to embark. My praetor. Nero and her counterparts said in awe. Wow. Jeanne d'Arc and her counterparts said. These many swords, there's so many of them. Okita and her counterpart said. Oh my. There's so many swords here. This is a dream come true. Musashi said excitedly. My queen, you have this many weapons in you. Gawain, Lancelot, Tristan, Bedivere, and Gareth said. Mother, this looks amazing. Mordred said in awe. This scenery, it reminds me of Avalon. Shirou, you sure have surprised me today, Merlin said with a grin on his face. Foe. Foe exclaimed excitedly as he played on the ground, reminding him of his first home. Wow kid. You have this many weapons in you, geez, now I want to fight you even more. Lancer Cu said. Shirou. Rider Medusa said. Boy. Castor Medea said. Berserker Heracles just stared at the scenery. Wow, this reminds me of home. Sasaki Kojiro said. Faker. Archer Gilgamesh muttered angrily with his counterparts joining him, now knowing why he keeps calling Shirou Faker every time he sees him. After all, each of the Gilgameshes were mad at how Shirou easily has every of their treasures so easily. Wow. This is amazing. Ritsuka said. I could make a painting out of this. Da Vinci said. Yeah. To think that one of Shirou's noble phantasms would be a reality marble. Mashu said. Everyone turned to Mashu for a moment and yelled out, what? A reality marble? Why yeah. Mashu said nervously. Then everyone then looked at Shirou, making him sigh from what Mashu just said. Guess I got to explain it now, huh? Yes, one of my noble phantasms is my reality marble. It is a high-class thaumaturgy that embodies my internal world and imprints it upon the world as a bounded field for a short amount of time. It is my one true specialization of magecraft, the result of sword being both my origin and my elemental affinity, and the basis of my projection and reinforcement skills. Ritsuka and Mashu shocked to hear this. Is there something wrong? Shirou asked. Huh? Oh, it's nothing, Shirou. I'm just surprised that one of your noble phantasms is a reality marble, Ritsuka said. And it looks oddly similar to Archer's in a way. Why yeah. Me too, Mashu said. I see, Shirou said. As everyone took a longer look at the inside of Shirou's reality marble, Mordred saw something that interested her. Or rather two things. Hey mother? Do you also live here as well? Everyone was confused at what Mordred just said. What do you mean by that, Mordred? Gawain asked. Well, there's a house in the corner over there, Mordred as she pointed to a direction. That immediately got the attention of everyone except Shirou at the moment. As they all went to see what Mordred was talking about, the Arturias, Rins, Sakuras, Ilias, Miyu, Taiga, Haritsugu, and the Emiyas were shocked to see what was over there. Over in the direction Mordred was talking about was Shirou's old house, which was a Japanese-style mansion. And along with it was Caliban stuck on a stone. And for some odd reason, a bunch of swords were there as well. SSS Shirou, is that? Arturia and her counterparts stuttered. Shirou sighed. Yes. That's my house. Well, a replica of it. Along with Caliban as well. This time, it was everyone's, besides the Gilgamesh's turn to be surprised, because about all of the things that were in Shirou's reality marble, it just happened to be his old house. Hi. That's your house, Shirou-san? Mashu asked. Yeah, Shirou replied. Wow. That's one thing I would never expect to see here. And you call that a house? This looks like a mansion a rich person would have. Ritsuka said. Huh. So, my praetor lives in a giant house like this, as expected from my praetor. Nero and her counterpart said proudly. Exactly. A mansion like this is worthy of Shirou. Astria said in agreement with Nero and her counterparts. So, this is the house Queen Shirou grew up in. Gawain, Lancelot, Tristan, Bedivere, and Gareth said. Man, was mother rich or what? Mordred said. Who knows? Although I'm more interested in how Shirou's reality marble managed to replicate Caliban in the stone. Merlin said with a sly grin on his face. A Japanese-style mansion, not bad. Okita and her altar said. Didn't know that Shirou lived in a house like that. Jean d'Arc and her altar said. Wow. So that's the house Shirou-kun grew up in. Looks a lot better than my house. And it's much bigger too. I want to look. Musashi said before she started to head towards the house. Soon, everyone else followed her as well. When they arrived, Mordred looked at Caliban and went closer to it. What are you doing, Mordred? Shirou asked. Mordred smirked. Isn't it obvious? I'm going to pull Caliban out of the stone. Can I, mother? Well, if you want to, I guess. Yes. Thanks, mother. Mordred said before she ended up in front of Caliban. She then tried to pull Caliban from the stone. However, what happened next completely blew everyone's minds off. Because in an instant, the doors started to open, and a voice was heard. Hey! Don't touch somebody else's work, the voice said. Everyone besides Shirou jumped at that voice. That voice, it can't be, they all thought. Oh boy. Here he comes. Shirou thought. Geez, even other people don't try to invade my host's reality marble, so I was wondering what was all the ruckus going on earlier. Imagine to my surprise to see a bunch of other people here. The voice said with a sigh in the end. As the figure revealed itself from the doors, everyone was shocked and mind blown at who the figure was. Because in front of them was Sengo Muramasa, who happened to look a lot like Shirou, but a little older. And he was wearing the same outfit as Shirou too. This place here is just a recreation of my host's house. You punks better state your reasons of being here before I kick all of you out of here, Muramasa yelled out. There was a moment of silence between the blacksmith and the group of people. Just because everyone's mind shut down trying to process the information that Sengo Muramasa and Emiya Shirou look exactly the same. Eventually, Musashi broke the silence. Gramps, she said excitedly. HM? Oh, hey Musashi, it's been a while. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thanks for the katana you lent me. No problem, Muramasa said before he turned to Shirou and Ritsuka. Hey there Shirou, it's been a while since I last saw you. And I see that you brought the kid along with you. Yeah. It's been a while Muramasa, Shirou said. Yeah, and what's the large amount of people that's behind you, especially that giant over there, he asked as he pointed at Berserker Heracles. Well, let's just say Chaldea needs to record my noble phantasms, and my friends, family, and a few other people came to watch. I see. Shirou, is that person in front of you? Arturia and her counterparts finally muttered after having their minds shut down. Shirou sighed. Yes. The person in front of me is Sengo Muramasa, the demonic blacksmith. At that moment, everyone besides Shirou, Musashi, Ritsuka, and Mashu yelled out in shock upon hearing those words. EHHHHHHHHHHHH, they exclaimed. Wait, that's Sengo Muramasa? But he's so young. Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal yelled out. That's him? But he looks so much like Senpai. Parvati, and Bibi and her sisters said. Geez. It's like there's two Onii-chans here. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu said. Two Sheris, that's something I would have never expected to see. Astria said. Oh my, now how can I tell which one is which? Irisville said. Geez. Things just got a lot crazier. Now I can't tell who's who. Jaguar Man yelled. Kuritsugu, Emiya, and Emiya Alter didn't say anything. However, Emiya and Emiya Alter were freaking themselves out on the inside. Okay. I know that I should probably get used to it right now when it comes to seeing my younger self. But seeing this? I cannot handle this at all. First of all, how is it that Sengo Muramasa happens to look like my younger self? Are we related or something? Geez, it's one thing see your younger self not getting corrupted. But now, seeing two of them? Well, one of them just looks like him, but is not him. Still though. This is just way too creepy beyond my tastes. Wow. Who would have ever thought that Shirou-san and Sengo-san look the same? Mashu said. Yeah. Ritsuka said. So that's Sengo Muramasa, no wonder why Musashi mistook Shirou-san for him earlier. Okita and her alter counterpart said. Sengo Muramasa, so that's him. Jean and her alter counterpart said. So that's Sengo Muramasa, he seems capable, Nero and her alternate versions said with a smile on their faces. Wow. Who would have ever thought that there is someone who looks like our queen? Gawain, Lancelot, Tristan, Bedivere, and Gareth said. No kidding. It's like looking at two mirrors. Mordred said. This looks interesting. Merlin said. I've heard of lookalikes, But this is crazy, this is even too much of a genius like me. Da Vinci muttered. Oi oi, I've seen weird shit before, but this takes the cake. Lancer CU said. Well, this is a turn of events. Writer Medusa said. Geez. I've heard of lookalikes, but this is ridiculous. They look too much like each other. Castor Medea said. So that's Sengo Muramasa, and he looks like Saber's former master. What's the connection between the two? Sasaki said. So, the faker has a faker. Isn't that ironic? Archer Gilgamesh said as he started laughing while his Castor and Kid versions sigh. Geez, what a loudmouth. Someone needs to shut his mouth later. Muramasa whispered to Shirou. You have no idea. Shirou replied. Anyways, do you mind this many people around here? I don't mind. This is your house after all. I'm just guarding the place here. Thanks, Muramasa. No problem. Muramasa then sat down on one of the wooden floorboards and turned to Ritsuka. So, I take it that all of these people know Shirou, kid? Why yeah. Ritsuka said. How? Well, some of them knew him because of a Holy Grail war he was in, and others knew him because of his arrival in Chaldea. I see. Ilya then came up to Muramasa. Excuse me, What's up, you little girl? Well, I have a question. It's, Kuro then decided to say the question. How come you look a lot like Oniai-chan? Muramasa was confused. Oniai-chan? She means me, Muramasa. By the way, that's my little sister you're talking to, Shirou said. Oh. Yeah. From the facial features to even the outfit, how is this possible? Saitonai and Miyu exclaimed. Soon, everyone else looked at Sengo Muramasa, wanting to know the question that was bothering them. Muramasa sighed and said, well, I'm his ancestor. Everyone besides Shirou was shocked upon hearing this. Eh? Ancestor? Yeah, Muramasa calmly stated. But how? Well, there's a certain reason for that. It's because his body and mind are similar to mine, including his origin as well. Not only that, but his magecraft, although I don't want to admit it, involves creating swords, which I do. I see. Yeah. And the same can be applied to his alternate versions as well. Everyone was confused when Muramasa said that. Alternate versions? Yeah. What, you all got something in your ears? Well, what do you mean by that? Ritsuka asked. Muramasa sighed. Let me show you then. He then got at the wooden floor and headed towards where Emiya and Emiya altar were. Emiya and Emiya altar were confused. What? Muramasa took one look at Emiya before starting to ruffle his hair. As he did, Emiya's hairstyle reverted into Shirou's hairstyle. Hey! What are you doing? Emiya asked before Muramasa stopped ruffling his hair. See? This is what I meant, Muramasa said, showing his proof in front of everyone. At that moment, everyone besides Shirou and Irisfeel were shocked at what they just saw. In front of them was the familiar face of Emiya Shirou, although a bit different. Well, this was bound to happen eventually, although not in a way like this. They both thought as everyone was looking at him and his altered counterpart. Shirou. Arturia and her counterpart stammered upon seeing his face. Is that? Ritsuka stammered. Emiya sighed. Yes, master. What you are seeing here is the existence known as Emiya Shirou. That includes my altered counterpart as well. At that point, everyone's minds broke again after hearing this. Especially the servants and masters from the 5th Holy Grail War and the Emiya family. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu yelled out. "You're Oniai-chan?" Emiya let out a sigh. "Yeah. Bibi, but you look so different. And you sound so different," Miyu said. "Yeah. How is that possible?" Saitonai said. Emiya took a deep breath before saying his answer. "This is the result of me overusing my magecraft to the very limit, therefore the appearance you see in front of me right now. The same applies to my altered self too." "Yeah," Emiya Alter said. "If that's the case, then why hasn't the same happened to Shiro-san?" Mashu said as she pointed at Shiro. "It's because he hasn't done the same mistake as me and my altered counterpart did." I see, wait, does that mean?" Ritsuka said as he just realized something. Emiya sighed. "Yes, me and my younger self have the same reality marble, although mine looks completely different from his." "So, does that mean?" Da Vinci said. "Yes. We both have the reality marble, unlimited blade works." "Is that so? Does the same apply to your altered counterpart?" "No. His is a lot different than mine, master," Emiya Alter said. I see. Huh, to think that Archer, his alter, and the kid are the same person. Well, now things make sense now," Lancer Cu said. "Yeah, Archer and Emiya-kun are the same person. This is something that I never would have expected." Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal said. Archer Gilgamesh started laughing. "Ha ha 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 ha. So now we have 3 fakers here. Isn't that funny?" Everyone sighed upon hearing Archer Gilgamesh's laughing and taunting at the same time. However, that was when Muramasa did the unthinkable. "Oh, why don't you shut your loud mouth up, you arrogant golden brat?" Muramasa yelled out. Everyone went silent after hearing Muramasa's outburst. Archer Gilgamesh turned to Muramasa in anger. "What did you say to me, you mongrel?" he said menacingly. "Huh? You got something stuck between your ears and brains? Then I'll say it again. Shut your loud mouth up, you arrogant golden brat," Muramasa repeated. Archer Gilgamesh got even angrier after hearing what Muramasa just said. "How dare you? Calling me, the king of heroes, an arrogant golden brat? Well, that's because you are acting like one," Muramasa said. "And how so?" "Because you kept calling my descendant and his alternate versions fakers." "Well, they deserve to." "How so?" "Because every weapon here is an inferior fake. Compared to the treasures I possess, these weapons here are just a copy." "Oh? What makes you think they're inferior?" "Because I said so." "That's not something to back up with, you spoiled brat." "Why you?" Meanwhile, everyone was watching the verbal fight between Muramasa and Archer Gilgamesh with shock. Geez, who would have ever thought that Muramasa can sure bring out insults that hurt? Everyone thought. "Will both of you calm down?" Shiro yelled, making both of them go silent for a moment. "Geez, I leave him alone for a moment, and he's already starting trouble. Guess I have no choice then," he thought. Muramasa does have a point though. "Why do you think that every weapon here is inferior?" Archer Gilgamesh calmed down for a moment and said, "Isn't it obvious? Because every weapon here is based on from the various treasures I possess in my Gate of Babylon. And if anything, a fake can't be the original. Because you think of yourself as the king of heroes?" "Exactly. Then how about we put that to the test then?" Shiro said. At that moment, everyone was stunned at what Shiro just said. "Huh? What are you saying?" "I'm saying that if you want to prove what you just said, then fight me. Or are you scared that your precious treasures will lose to these imitations you keep bad-mouthing?" Shiro said with a sly smirk on his face, angering Archer Gilgamesh and surprising everyone else. Why this mongrel? Wow. Who would have ever known that the king of heroes was weak to pressure? Well, Gilgamesh let out a humph and said, "Normally I wouldn't do something like this, but for you, I'll make an exception. Since you've angered me this much." He then left the area of the mansion. Shirou smirked. Well, guess that's settled then. However, before Shirou could leave, Arutria and her counterparts called him out. "Shirou, will you be alright fighting against him?" Arturia and her counterparts asked. "Yeah. Are you sure? Trust me. I'm not the same half-baked magus I was before." "Well, okay, but if things get bad, I'll jump in. Is that okay with you?" "Sure." Arturia and her counterparts smiled. "Then go get him, Shirou." Shirou smiled back. "As you wish." "Hey Emiya-kun. Don't lose." Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal said. "Senpai. Win please." Parvati, and Bibi and her sisters said. "Oniai-chan. Don't lose." Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu said. "Shirou. Win." Astria said. "Shirou. Make sure to look cool while you win." Irisville and Jaguarman said. Kuritsugu, Emiya, and Emiya Alter didn't say anything. "My praetor. Show me what you can do." Nero and her counterparts said. "Hey Shirou. Kick that arrogant king's ass over." Jean Dark Alter yelled before she got hit in the head by her non-altered counterpart. "Language," Jean Dark said. "Shirou-san. Don't lose to him." Okita and her counterpart said. "Shirou-kun. Show me what you got." Musashi said. "Hey kid. Beat that guy's ass for me, will you?" Lancer Siyu said. "Show me Saber's former master. Show me the skills you have honed." Sasaki Kojiro said. "As much as I don't want to admit it, go kick my archer's counterpart's arrogant ego down to bits," Caster Gilgamesh said. "I agree with my caster counterpart," Kid Gilgamesh said. Berserker Heracles just growled. "Shirou. Make sure to use your other noble phantasm," Da Vinci said. "Hey Shirou, go kick that golden arrogant brat's ass for me, will you?" Muramasa said. Shirou had one word to say for all those requests. "Yes." Shirou then arrived at the area where Archer Gilgamesh was. "Humph. Are you ready, you mongrel?" "Yeah. Here I come, king of heroes." "Do you have enough swords in stock?" Shirou said. Gilgamesh growled. "You think too highly about yourself, you mongrel," he said as he activated his Gate of Babylon. In an instant, swords started to fly towards where Shirou was. Shirou then picked up a sword from the ground and started to swing at Gilgamesh's swords, deflecting them. As he did, more swords appeared from Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon. Shirou then continued to deflect them like before. Gilgamesh then summoned more swords from his Gate of Babylon and fired them at Shirou in multiple directions. Shirou then dodged some of the swords while blocking the others at the same time. Afterwards, Shirou began to run towards where Gilgamesh was. Hey! What's wrong, King of Heroes? Are your swords slower than mine? TCH. Don't get too cocky, mongrel. Gilgamesh said as he prepared himself to throw more swords at him. However, Shirou was one step ahead. He traced all the weapons Gilgamesh was about to throw at him and summoned the same number of weapons at the Gate of Babylon, instantly knocking them down. What? He was a step ahead of me? Gilgamesh exclaimed, his attention temporarily diverted to somewhere else. Too slow. Shirou yelled. In an instant, Shirou slashed down a part of Gilgamesh's armor. As the piece of Gilgamesh's armor fell to the ground, Gilgamesh was in disbelief of what just happened. And he was angry too. "Why you?" he yelled as he drew a sword from the gate of Babylon, intending to strike Shirou in the head. However, Shirou noticed that, turned around, and blocked his sword strike. Shirou then pushed Gilgamesh backwards to get some space. "That's odd. Why are this mongrel's blades are giving me trouble? It shouldn't be possible for me to have trouble with a mongrel like him." As if to answer Gilgamesh's thoughts, Shirou suddenly said, "Don't you get it?" Gilgamesh then looked at Shirou. "You may be ranked the highest of all of the heroic spirits, because you possess over 1,000 noble phantasms. However, you're a king, not a warrior. You didn't choose the path of taking a single noble phantasm to its ultimate limit." Shirou then pointed his sword at him. "In other words, you're a one-trick pony, just like me." Gilgamesh slightly growled at what Shirou just said. "When I'm done with you, there won't be a single bone shard left of your counterfeiting cranium," he yelled as more portals opened up, revealing more swords coming out of them. As Gilgamesh's swords started flying towards Shirou, Shirou then countered with his own swords, flying at them back while running to the side. Some of Shirou's swords followed him, and as Shirou got closer to Gilgamesh, they flew to the ground to create some dust to distract Gilgamesh. "Tch!" Gilgamesh said. Shirou then ran towards Gilgamesh and swung his sword at him, but Gilgamesh blocked it. "Impossible. I'm being forced back by a fraud like you?" Against any other servant, a reality marble like this would be a slight hindrance to a servant who has mastered one noble phantasm. However, against someone like you, my swords are reading and waiting, so I'm always one step ahead of you." Shirou yelled as he struck down the sword Archer Gilgamesh was holding and broke it. Archer Gilgamesh was shocked as Shirou just broke one of his treasures with the imitations he was badmouthing earlier. "Damn you." Archer Gilgamesh then brought out another sword from the gate of Babylon and swung it at Shirou. And like what happened earlier, Shirou broke it with his own sword. "Damn you." And Archer Gilgamesh did the same thing again. And it broke again. Repeatedly. "Damn you. Damn you. Damn you." Archer Gilgamesh yelled as he swung angrily at Shirou. However, Shirou touched Archer Gilgamesh's sword's tip with his own and made him release it into the air. However, that's when Archer Gilgamesh decided to rain swords on top of Shirou, making him go backwards. Archer Gilgamesh growled. "Damn you. To think that I must go all out on the likes of a faker like you," he yelled as more portals appeared. He then started firing more swords on Shirou while Shirou continued deflecting some of them with his sword while dodging at the same time. As he kept deflecting Archer Gilgamesh's swords, he was slowly catching up to him. However, as he caught up to him, Archer Gilgamesh summoned multiple portals in every direction of where Shirou was and rained a bunch of swords on him. The swords came down on him and hit the ground hard, creating a pile of dust in the air. Gilgamesh smirked at the work he just caused. That faker shouldn't be able to survive this. However, he was completely wrong. Because at that moment, Shirou appeared out of the cloud of dust, holding two unknown katanas even Gilgamesh doesn't know, and just slashed him, breaking more parts of his armor and scratching him, resulting in him moving past him. For once, Archer Gilgamesh was baffled. Because of two things. One was that there were two weapons he did not know of. And the other was that he received an injury from the faker. Archer Gilgamesh turned around angrily, seeing what weapons Shirou was holding. The katanas Shirou was holding were quite similar and yet different. The designs of each katana were the same as the other. However, it was the color scheme that separated them. The katana Shirou was holding in his right hand had a white blade, a golden guard, a black handle, and a golden ornament. The katana on his left hand had a black blade with some red lines around it in a turtle pattern, a golden guard, a black handle, and a golden ornament. "Faker, what are those weapons?" he growled angrily. Shirou smirked. "Never seen them before? Then let me tell you then." He then pointed at Archer Gilgamesh using the katana on his right hand. Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya. Archer Gilgamesh was baffled upon hearing this. Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya? I've never heard of this. Of course. After all, it's something that I made after all. Shirou said as he proceeded to rush towards where Archer Gilgamesh is with both swords in his hands. "TCH. Archer Gilgamesh said as he brought out two swords from the gate of Babylon and tried to defend himself, but in an instant, Shirou broke them with Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya. "Damn you," he yelled as he summoned more portals to attack him. He then threw a multitude of blades at him. However, what happened next was unexpected. Shirou stabbed one of the swords into the ground and raised his hand. Ro Aias, version Avalon. In an instant, a gold version of the seven-petal flower shield appeared in front of Shirou, protecting him from the number of blades that came towards him. "What?" Archer Gilgamesh yelled, not expecting that to happen. As the number of swords coming after him stopped, Shirou picked up the other sword from the ground and ran towards Archer Gilgamesh. "He's a fine piece of work, isn't he?" Muramasa said with a smirk to everyone around the mansion. Everyone besides Muramasa was in shock upon hearing the words Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya and Ro Aias, version Avalon from Shirou's mouth. And he was actually forcing Archer Gilgamesh back using them. Shirou. Arturia and her counterparts said. Emiya Shirou. Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal said. Senpai. Parvati, and Bibi and her sisters said. Oniai-chan. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu said. Shirou. Astria said. Shirou. Irisville, Jaguarman, and Karitsugu said. Emiya and Emiya Alter didn't say anything. However, they had one thought. Since when was my younger self able to do that? My praetor. Nero and her counterparts said. Shirou. Jeanne d'Arc and her altered counterpart said. Shirou-san. Okita and her altered counterpart said. Shirou-kun. Musashi said. Our queen. Gawain, Lancelot, Tristan, Bedivere, and Gareth said. Mother. Mordred said. Shirou. Merlin said. Foe. Foe said. Kid. Lancer Siu said. Shirou. Rider Medusa said. Boy. Castor Medea said. Kid. Sasaki said. Castor and Kid Gilgamesh said nothing. Berserker Heracles just growled. Everyone was looking at the fight in wonder. After all, it's rare to see the king of heroes actually getting pushed back by someone. Am I hearing this right? Ritsuka said. Why yeah. Mashu said. It appears that Shirou-san has created two noble phantasms. Shirou-kun made twin katanas out of thin air. And a gold flower shield too. Musashi explained happily. Speaking of which, I want to take a look at them later. Calm down Musashi, Muramasa said. Now just hold on a second. Since when was Emiya Shirou able to create a noble phantasm? Let alone two. Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal said. Eh? Was he not able to in the past? Ritsuka asked. Yeah. Last time, he was only able to trace weapons. Not create them. This is a shock. I see. Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya, what does that do? Da Vinci asked. From what I heard from Shirou when he first created them, Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya is a weapon that combines the traits of the dual weapons, Kancho and Bakuya, and Myojinjiri Muramasa. And the other? Ro Aia's, version Avalon is a defensive weapon that acts like a shield in which it combines the defensive capabilities of Avalon and Ro Aia's. I see. Da Vinci said. Are any of the two his second noble phantasm? Muramasa shook his head. Nope. They're just weapons he created on his own. Really? Yeah. And there's a lot more he can do, he said with a smirk on his face. Everyone then looked at the battle between Shirou and Archer Gilgamesh with a bunch of thoughts on their minds. Wait. If that's the case, well. Ritsuka shuddered. Emiya sighed. Just call me Emiya Master. I don't consider myself as my younger self anymore. I see. So Emiya, can you do the same thing as well? Well, no, actually. I think the reason why my younger self was able to create Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Kancho, and Bakuya along with Ro Aia's, version Avalon was because he fused himself with Sengo Muramasa over there. Maybe the fusing between the two may have changed my younger self's magecraft a bit to the point where he's able to do something like this. Is that so? Yeah. Still though, who would have ever known that the kid was capable of something like this? Siyu said. Eh? You know him, Siyu-san? Mashu asked. Yeah. In fact, me, the King of Knights, the Red Archer there, Rider, Caster, Berserker, the other archer over there, and the little girls over there all knew him as well. Is that so? Yeah. But still, who would have ever though that the weak kid back then would grow up to be a monster? Yeah. Master, what class is the boy? Medea said. Eh? Ah, he says he's a saber class servant. Why? Ritsuka replied. Well, judging from the fight, it looks like he's a caster class servant to me. You think so? That's what it looks like to me. Wait, does that mean that Shirou-san is a double class servant? Mashu said. Eh? A double class servant? Is that even possible? Ritsuka said. Could be. After all, we have archers that uses swords. Da Vinci said. Well, that's true. Ritsuka said. Muramasa sighed as he continued to watch the fight. As he was watching, Arturia, her counterparts, and Musashi came up to him. What? If I may want to ask, how did you and Shirou/Shirokuen meet? They all asked. Muramasa then turned his head to them and said, well, call it an unexpected encounter. What do you mean by that? They asked. Well, it all started when he found a hidden Muramasa blade. Arturia, her counterparts, and Musashi got interested upon hearing this. What happened next? Well, the kid touched the sword and it somehow resonated with him. The next thing that I knew was that I suddenly woke up in this kid's reality marble on the ground here. And you want to know what happened next? What? When we saw each other, I was in shock with how there was someone who looked like me, and the same applied to him as well. During that moment, I sensed that Shirou's body was similar to mine, and that's when I realized that he is my descendant. Arturia and her counterparts chuckled. I wonder what his face looked like when he saw you. Muramasa chucked back. Possibly the funniest I have ever seen. It looked like he saw a ghost. Arturia and her counterparts and Musashi laughed as they imagined the face of Shirou upon meeting Muramasa for the first time. So, what happened next afterwards? Well, we had a chat, talking about how I am his descendant and how we are similar to each other, and that's the story of what happened. So that's the story of how you and Shirou/Shirokuen met. The Arturias and Musashi said. Yeah. Anyways, you might want to go back to watching the match. Shirou's up to something. Upon hearing this, Arturia, her counterparts, and Musashi went back to watch the match. Archer Gilgamesh couldn't believe it. Many of his treasures were falling to the weapons Shirou were holding in his hands. And it was making him mad. Okay, scratch that. It was making him furious. Don't get too confident, you mongrel. Archer Gilgamesh yelled as he summoned more portals and threw more swords at Shirou. Shirou moved backwards and dodged them all. Shirou then continued moving forward to where Gilgamesh was. However, Shirou suddenly stopped. Because Archer Gilgamesh activated the chains of heaven on him, restricting his movement. Huh. Looks like you can't move now, he said. He then brought over a sword from his gate of Babylon and was about to strike down Shirou. However, Shirou let go of his swords for a moment and did the one thing that wasn't done before. He punched Archer Gilgamesh right in the face. At that moment, Shirou could have sworn he heard laughter and cheering from the mansion as he punched him. As Shirou punched Archer Gilgamesh right in the face, he went back by a few feet and released his swords from the chains of heaven. Shirou then grabbed his swords again and went for Archer Gilgamesh. At that moment, Archer Gilgamesh was even beyond furious. You faker, he yelled. He then summoned even more swords than before, and they were all aimed at Shirou, with the intention to kill. Archer Gilgamesh then threw the swords at Shirou, creating a giant dust storm when they impacted to the ground. As the dust cleared, Shirou was nowhere to be found. Where is that mongrel? He thought as he growled, looking at the area around him, but couldn't find him. He then looked up and saw him. However, he saw a sight that was unexpected. Shirou was in the air, wielding a familiar black bow. And he was using a sword as an arrow. Go into the distant red plains. Fronting! Shirou yelled as he shot Fronting at Archer Gilgamesh. There was an explosion as Fronting hit Archer Gilgamesh in the chest. Meanwhile, everyone besides Muramasa, Ritsuka, Mashu, and Mordred were surprised at what Shirou just did. He projected a black bow and shot Archer Gilgamesh in the air. Did Senpai just? Yeah. It appears that my younger self shot that arrogant king with a bow, Emiya said. Everyone besides Ritsuka, Mashu, Mordred, Emiya, and Emiya Alter yelled out. Huh? Why are all of you surprised? Mordred suddenly said. Everyone turned to Mordred. What are you talking about, Mordred? Gawain asked. Huh? Didn't all of you saw this before? Everyone shook their heads. Huh. Guess me, Master, and the demi-servant are the only ones who saw Mother use that then. Arturia, her counterparts, the rest of the knights of the round, and Merlin looked at Mordred in surprise. Mordred, you already knew? Arturia and her counterparts asked. Yeah. Why didn't you tell us about this? The knights of the round asked. Well, all of you didn't ask anything about this. Mordred replied. She does have a point, Merlin said. Oi. First saber, then caster, and now an archer? Is the kid a triple-class servant or what? Siyu said. Who knows? Rider Medusa said. A triple-class servant, as expected from my praetor. Nero and her counterparts said. Back at the fight, Shirou was panting a bit after shooting Fronting in front of Gilgamesh. Geez, that last shot may have been a bit too much. He thought as he was looking at the cloud of dust he caused. As the dust cleared, it showed a very furious archer Gilgamesh with the top part of his armor destroyed. How dare you? Not once, but twice you showed disrespect to the king of heroes. You deserve a dog's miserable death, you faker. In his anger, Gilgamesh opened another portal and brought out his most prized and dangerous treasure yet. The Sword of Rupture, EA. Consider this your last moment to live faker, he yelled in anger as he raised it in the air. At that moment, Ritsuka and Mashu were freaking out. Is Gilgamesh bringing his noble phantasm out? Now? That can't be good, he exclaimed. Senpai. Is there anything we can do? Mashu exclaimed as she was worried. There's no choice, we need to stop this dash. Master! Shirou yelled. Ritsuka and Mashu stopped for a moment upon hearing Shirou's voice. This is something that I started, and I need to finish it. I know this is selfish of me, but please let me finish this with my own hands. Ritsuka was stunned. But dash. Please, Shirou said with resolve in his voice. Defeated, Ritsuka sighed as there was no way to change Shirou's mind. As you wish, he said as he sat back down. Oh boy, Shirou's about to unleash that. Everyone was confused with what Muramasa just said. What do you mean by that, Muramasa-san? Mashu asked. Well, just look and see. Shirou then unsheathed the katana that was with him for the first time since this whole fight. As he drew it out, Gilgamesh sneered at what seems to be Shirou's attempt to block EA. To make me pull out my greatest treasure, you deserve some praise at least. Gilgamesh then raised EA in the air. But are you seriously thinking of going up against my greatest treasure with something like that? He asked while looking at the katana Shirou just pulled out. Shirou stayed silent. Ha! The faker has gone silent upon my greatest treasure being pulled out. However, it is expected, because after all, my greatest treasure is unparalleled to none. Archer Gilgamesh then laughed. Is that what you think? Archer Gilgamesh stopped his laughter and looked at Shirou. Huh? What are you going to say, you mongrel? Shirou smirked. Let me show you something interesting. Hugh Fate / Grand Order OST, Epic of Remnant Emiya. Shirou began to chant. I'm not the King of Knights, Arturia. I'm not the one praised as the Hound of Ireland, see you. I'm not the Witch of Betrayal, Medea. I'm not the great hero, Hercules. I'm not the wandering swordsman, Sasaki. I'm not the fallen goddess, Medusa. And I'm not the counter-guardian of humanity, Emiya. Why, out of all people, I, a magus, was summoned. For being unable to foresee that, this is your defeat. Once seeking for the ultimate blade. A blade of steel, cutting no flesh, nor bones, and neither life. What I seek for is the clearance of resentment. The cutting of bonds, fate and destiny. Shirou then raised his katana in the air. However, what happened next shocked everyone. Because at that moment, every sword that was in Shirou's reality marble started to light up, went on fire, and then suddenly disappeared. Afterwards, Shirou's katana started to glow up to the point where it looked like it was on fire. Not only that, but Shirou had a red aura around him that was swirling around him like a harsh wind. That is, to free oneself from karma. Upon one's arrival are countless tools. Carved over 1,000 blades, forming a pile of swords. This is the place where all paths cross. This is the place where all desires flow. This is the place where all deaths await. My whole life was for this single swing. Growing tired, Archer Gilgamesh then unleashed EA on Shirou. It's over, faker. Enuma Elish. Shirou then swung his sword at Archer Gilgamesh. The heart of the blade is right here. Take this is my Tsumagari Muramasa. As Shirou swung his sword at the Sword of Rupture, a few pillars of fire suddenly came out of the ground, making everyone shield their eyes from the clash between Tsumagari Muramasa and EA. As the clash ended, the flames died out, everyone opened their eyes, were surprised with the results of the clash. Both contestants were standing and exhausted, and it meant that Shirou had beaten EA with Sumigari Muramasa. However, the one who was most surprised out of them all was Archer Gilgamesh. Because his most prized treasure, EA, was beaten by a sword carried by a faker. And it angered him. However, that was when he noticed something. EA was on the ground, along with his arm holding it. And it proved one thing. Sumigari Muramasa outranked EA by a mile. Archer Gilgamesh then looked at the bloody stump that was where his severed arm used to be. And for once, he felt pain upon realizing it. Not wanting to show his pain, Archer Gilgamesh yelled at Shirou, demanding answers on what just happened. "Faker, what did you do? How did you survive my most powerful treasure? It shouldn't be possible," he moaned. Shirou chucked. "You want to know?" he muttered. In an instant, everyone looked at Shirou, wanting to know what the answer was. The weapon that sliced through Enuma Elish is known as Sumigari Muramasa, which is my second noble phantasm. It is the realization of Sengo Muramasa's ideal sword. The sword is one that can purge resentment, cut through bonds, fate, causality, and destiny, and slice through the idea of karma itself. It is a recreation of the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the sword that came out from the tail of Yamato no Orochi from the Age of Gods. Everyone besides Muramasa had their eyes widen upon hearing this. A copy of a divine construct? That's his other noble phantasm? Then, tell me this. How is it that copy of a divine construct was able to cut through EA? Archer Gilgamesh yelled. Shirou sighed and said, "It's because Sumigari Muramasa rests in both the physical and astral planes of existence, which means it is capable of harming anything. That includes a god and anything with divinity as well, along with demonic attributes as well." What? Archer Gilgamesh exclaimed in disbelief. "Yeah, so basically, this weapon is your worst enemy, or rather, my entire existence is your worst enemy." At that moment, Gilgamesh was in denial for the first time. However, before he could even say anything, the exhaustion was getting to him. "Why you, faker?" he moaned before he fell to the ground, unconscious. Shirou then sat down on the ground, exhausted after a battle that went overboard. "Well, guess that's over." However, he soon heard multiple footsteps coming towards him. And those footsteps came from the Arturia and her counterparts, Ishtar and her counterparts, Parvati, Bibi and her sisters, Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, Miyu, and Astria. And they all proceeded to tackle him with a hug. "You idiot. You made us worry about you," they all exclaimed. Shirou laughed sheepishly. Sorry. Sorry isn't going to cut it, you know." While Shirou was being bombarded with the yelling from Arturia and her counterparts, Ishtar and her counterparts, Parvati, Bibi and her sisters, Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, Miyu, and Astria, the rest were watching the scene. Wow. The kid just defeated Gilgamesh and now the girls are over him. "Isn't he lucky?" he said with laughter. "No kidding. To think that boy would actually defeat the king of heroes." Castor Medea said. "You have a point there," writer Medusa said. "Yeah. And the fact that his noble phantasm actually outranks his as well," Sasaki said. "Even though I'm glad that someone got my archer counterpart's ego into place, I think he went a bit overboard," Castor Gilgamesh said. "Agreed," Kid Gilgamesh said. "Okay, it's settled. Mother is definitely the strongest servant here," Mordred said. "That we can agree on, Mordred," Gawain said with approval from the Knights of the Round. "Oh my, guess little Arturia and her counterparts seem to have won it big," Merlin said with a sly grin on his face. "Umu. That battle was excellent. As expected from my praetor." "Hey! What do you mean he's your praetor?" Jean Dark Altar yelled. Now. Jean Dark said. Do you think I can borrow that? Okita Alter said. I don't think so. Okita said. That was amazing. Musashi said excitedly. Oh my, who would have ever known that the battle would end up like this? Irisfiel said. You're telling me. I think that nearly shaved some years off my life. Speaking of which, I need to give Shirou a lecture later. Jaguarman said. Hey. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Emiya Alter asked to his non-altered counterpart. Yes. It appears that our younger self has surpassed us, Emiya said. Shirou, is this what you were capable of? Kuretsugu said. Wow. Shirou actually won. Ritsuka said. Why yeah, Mashi replied. Da Vinci smiled. And we now have data on Emiya Shirou's noble phantasms. Although I did not expect things to end up like this. Speaking of which, I need to talk to him about something. Da Vinci then went over to the area where Shirou was. However, when she arrived there, the girls were still yelling at him. She then waited until the girls stopped yelling at him. Shirou, do you mind if I ask something? Sure. What is it? Is Tsumagari Muramasa a weapon you created like the others? No, this was originally Muramasa's noble phantasm until he gave it to me. Everyone turned to Muramasa. Shirou, you shouldn't have said that. He muttered. Wait. So, the giant slash that happened earlier back then in Shimosa-Musashi said excitedly. Was me when I unleashed Tsumagari Muramasa on that sorcerer, Muramasa said. Is that so, but what happened to you later? I didn't see you anywhere. Muramasa sighed. Gramps? It's because when I used it, I died immediately afterwards. Everyone was immediately alarmed by this. Meanwhile, Shirou mentally facepalmed himself. Damn it, Muramasa. You just had to say it. He muttered. Wait. Does that mean that Shirou will die too? He used it after all. Ritsuka said. Well, that's the funny thing. I've seen him use that many times, and it didn't even kill him. Although it did leave him drained quite a bit. Even now, I still don't know the mystery behind it. I see. Ritsuka said with relief. Yeah. Well anyways, it was fun seeing all of you guys here, but time is running out. Everyone was confused with what Muramasa said. What do you mean by that? Ritsuka asked. Then in a way to answer Ritsuka's question, a crackle-like sound was heard, and in an instant, a hole appeared in the reality marble. What was that? Where did that come from? It's the after effects of Tsumagari Muramasa. Not only it was strong enough to go up against what the arrogant golden brat had earlier, but it was able to break a reality marble. Really? Yeah. Anyways, it's been fun meeting all of you. Muramasa said with a grin. See you. Yes. Until we meet again, Gramps. Ritsuka replied. Yeah. By the way, make sure to keep an eye on my descendant, will you? He can sure be a magnet for trouble. Yes. Okay then, bye. Everyone soon said their farewells after Ritsuka did as Shirou's reality marble faded away. As so, everything went back to normal. Yeah. Well, at least everything is over, Shirou said with a sigh. Not yet, Arturia and her counterparts said. Shirou was confused. What do you mean by that? Remember what Muramasa said? Shirou thought about it and realized that he just revealed something he shouldn't have. Oh. Shirou, prepare to receive a reprimanding from all of us. All of us? As on cue, the Rin faces, Sakura faces, Ilias, Miyu, Astria, Irisfiel, Jaguarman, and surprisingly Kuretsugu appeared in front of him. Emiya-kun. Ishtar, her rider counterpart, and Ereshkigal muttered. Senpai. Parvati, and Bibi, and her sisters muttered. Oniai-chan. Ilya, Kuro, Saitonai, and Miyu muttered. Shirou. Astria muttered. Shirou. Irisveal, Jaguarman, and Karitsugu said. Shirou sighed at the situation he was in. He was sure going to get an earful today. Oh boy, I'm in big trouble now. And then he was scolded while everyone else watched. However, this was only the beginning of a storm he was going to deal with. Because news in Chaldea spread quickly. And this was big news. Omax. Shirou was about to leave his room. However, when the door opened, he was greeted with a surprise he did not expect. In the form of a line of servants in front of him. Shirou looked at the line of servants and asked, "Can I help you?" They all replied, "Please fight me, Emiya Shirou." Shirou sighed. Why? Bedivere was walking around Shirou's mansion. As he did, he came upon a certain item. The 00 Razor Mystic Code Da Vinci gave him a while ago. Or rather, a copy of it. What's this sword? For some reason, it feels familiar, even though I have never seen it before. He then touched the mystic code and pulled it out from the ground. Seems light for something long. That's when he got a surprise he did expect. Voice recognized. Welcome back, Setsuna F. Say. Bedivere was shocked, confused, and dropped the mystic code at the same time. Setsuna F. Say? Who's that? I really did not expect to meet you like this again, Gramps, Ritsuka said. Muramasa said nothing. There's something I need to ask you. Well, what is it? Ritsuka then took a deep breath before saying his question. Is that outfit Shirou is wearing is your fetish, Gramps? Isn't it weird that one of his arms is covered while the other isn't? Also, does he actually wear that everywhere he goes, including somewhere that is cold? Also, why doesn't he ever complain about the outfit that he is wearing? Doesn't he ever get caught by the authorities for looking like that? Muramasa looked angry upon hearing this. Get out. Huh? I said get out, he yelled before he punched Ritsuka on the head. Ritsuka woke up with a start. Good morning, Senpai, Mashu said. Ritsuka looked around the room and said, "Ah, he avoided my questions." Senpai? HM? What's wrong, Mordred? Bedivere asked. Huh? It's nothing, Bedivere, Mordred replied. Are you sure? It doesn't seem that way. Trust me, I can tell. Mordred sighed. You always have a knack for things like this, huh? Fine, I'll tell you. Okay. What seems to be the problem? Mordred gulped before saying her problem. It's my mother's side of the family. Bedivere was confused. What about it? Well, since I just found out that Sengo Muramasa is my mother's ancestor, should I call him my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother or great-great-great-great-great-great-step-grandmother? Or great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-great-great-step-grandfather? Bedivere didn't have an answer for that.